You've probably seen that viral purple Starbucks drink flooding your social media feed, the one people are already calling the next matcha. To most of the world, it feels like something fresh and new, a colorful trend that popped up out of nowhere. But for Filipinos, watching this moment unfold feels a little surreal because oob was never a trend to them. Long before it landed in any international coffee chain, long before influencers turned it into content, oob was simply part of life. Farmers grew it, street vendors sold it, grandmothers cooked with it. It showed up in jams, cakes, ice cream pastries, and holiday tables across the country. Now, as global demand takes off, the Philippines is facing a problem nobody quite expected. The ingredient the world is finally discovering is getting harder to source at home. So how did a humble root crop travel this far? And what is the real cost of this sudden fame? Welcome to History of Common Things. Let's get into it. What actually is ube? Ube is a yam. Its scientific name is Dioscorea alata. It is not taro, it is not purple sweet potato, even though people mix them up constantly. Ube has brown skin and flesh ranging from soft lavender to deep violet. The flavor is gentle and sweet, with warm, nutty, creamy undertones that some compare to vanilla. In Filipino cooking, that flavor is the whole point. The color may be what catches a stranger's eye, but Filipinos did not fall in love with ube because it photographs well. They loved it because it tasted good, grew locally, and meant something. That is why so many Filipinos bristle when ube gets treated like a random aesthetic choice. The name, the crop, and the taste all come from a real culture and a real history, not a marketing team. A history going back centuries. Ube's roots in the Philippines run deep. Yam species have been cultivated in the country for thousands of years. Food historian Feliz Prudente Santa Maria found ube listed in the very first Tagalog Spanish dictionary, published back in 1613, meaning it was already common enough to name in writing over 400 years ago. In Bohol, a prized local variety called kinampay became woven into the province's identity. It appeared in festivals, in local songs, and in community memory. During droughts and food shortages, crops like ube helped keep communities fed, which is part of why this root still carries genuine emotional weight today. How it becomes halaya. The most traditional form of ube in Filipino sweets is halaya or ubeng halaya. The process is straightforward but slow. Fresh ube gets peeled, cut, then boiled or steamed until soft enough to mash. From there, it cooks down with sugar, butter, and milk, usually coconut milk, evaporated milk, or condensed milk, until it thickens into a rich, glossy jam. That halaya becomes the building block for dozens of other desserts, layered cakes, pastries, ice cream, and halo-halo. Today's cafes skip the whole yam and work with purees, powders, or flavor extracts instead, blending them into lattes, cold foam drinks, and iced teas. In 2026, major chains including Starbucks rolled out ube drinks across the United States. Food writers immediately reached for the matcha comparison. It is not a bad one. Ube works in hot and cold formats, looks eye-catching on camera, and translates easily into syrups and powders. But there is a key difference. Matcha is a processed tea. Ube is a living crop, and crops depend on soil, weather, labor, and timing. When demand spikes fast, the pressure does not land in the cafe, it lands on the farm. The supply problem, nobody is talking about this, is where the story gets complicated. Ube is still largely grown in small scattered plots, concentrated mainly in central Visayas. It is expensive to produce, labor-intensive to harvest, and frequently short in supply. Output has dropped well below the roughly 30,000 metric tons recorded back in 2006. Farmers contend with seasonal shortfalls, persistent pests and disease, and a serious shortage of quality planting materials. Government agricultural investment has historically prioritized rice and corn over specialty crops like ube. As of May 2026, Business World reported that experts believe the government was not yet prepared for the demand surge ahead, with agencies still operating without coordination. The most striking consequence of all this? The Philippines has started importing raw ube from Vietnam just to keep up with domestic processing demand. The country most closely identified with ube in the world is now buying ube from abroad because local production cannot meet local need. And while global brands profit from the purple aesthetic, Farmers at home often receive only a fraction of the final price consumers pay. The drink looks fun. The market behind it is anything but. Good Shepherd. The jar with a story. If you want one example of what UB actually means to Filipino life, look at Good Shepherd in Baguio City. The Good Shepherd sisters began making preserves in the 1950s to support the children in their care. By the 1970s, they shifted to UB because it was more reliable year-round than strawberries. Their UB jam became one of the most beloved pasalubong items in the country. But buying a jar does more than satisfy a craving. For decades, proceeds from those products have helped send underprivileged students, particularly young women, to college, while also providing stable work for local workers and working students. A jar of Good Shepherd UB jam is not just food. It is a small piece of something larger. The bottom linyub is a yam. It is a Filipino ingredient with centuries of history behind it. It started as a root crop, became halaya, became ice cream, became coffee syrup, and eventually became a purple drink the rest of the world suddenly noticed. But if all we see is the trend, we miss what matters. Ube is not famous because of its color. It is famous because generations of Filipino farmers, cooks, vendors, and families kept growing it, cooking it, and building meaning around it. The world caught on late. The least we can do is acknowledge who was there first.